It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today, breaking down news of the day. None other than my dear sister and colleague in advocacy, Sirius XM host, Reese Colbert Show. Always fascinated to have brilliant people on the program. All right, first story of the day. South Carolina cops decided to handcuff 76-year-old male who had dementia, put it up for a mask. The story is going to make you upset and your blood boil. This man had dementia. He died while traveling in police custody. South Carolina cops decided to handcuff the 76-year-old man with dementia over a minor offense, leave him unbuckled in a patrol car. He dies after officer crashes during transport, according to a recently filed lawsuit. After police officers in West Columbia, South Carolina, arrested an elderly man suffering from dementia last July, they cuffed him and put him in a police car, but failed to secure him with a seatbelt. That's according to the new lawsuit. On the way to jail, another vehicle crashed into the patrol car, causing serious injuries that led to the man's death a week later. Eddie Dean Bigham was 76 years of age, suffering from dementia, quote, or a similarly limiting condition, when he was arrested by the West Columbia Police Department for an undisclosed misdemeanor on July 11th, 2024. That's according to the wrongful death lawsuit filed on his estate's behalf by his widow, Rhoda Bigham, on February 28th. So the accident, according to the complaint and reported by WLTX CBS News 19, Officer Anita Chestnut was driving the police car to the Lexington County Detention Center. Mr. Bigham was sitting unrestrained in the back passenger seat when a white Kia Soul driven by Alexander Scott Fry, exiting a parking lot, pulled out in front of the police car and collided with it. So the 76-year-old suffered severe injuries, including disfigurement, disability, extensive pain, and emotional trauma as a result of the collision before he died a week later, July 18th, 2024, according to the lawsuit. The family's traumatic experience was worsened due to the actions of the city immediately after the crash. The family wasn't notified about the accident or that Mr. Bigham had been taken to the hospital for ER treatment for several hours. Then police kept his body in custody during his hospital stay, while, quote, limiting and restricting his family's access to him during his final days. The lawsuit accuses the city and the police department of West Columbia of negligence and gross negligence for its officers driving too fast for the conditions, not braking soon enough, failing to yield, and failing to properly restrain and put a seatbelt on Mr. Bigham. Chestnut, who was a school resource officer at the time of the accident, was not notified to be at fault for the collision, but the South Carolina Highway Patrol, according to WLTX, which reviewed the incident report, she was treated at the hospital for injuries, released that same day. It is not clear if she's still employed at the police department or not. Spokesperson declined to comment on the case or the personnel update. Chestnut has a resume posted online seeking a new job, which lists the last month of her employment at the police department as September 2024. She is not personally named in the lawsuit. According to the obituary, Eddie Bigham grew up in the Great Falls, South Carolina area, was married for 55 years, and had 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren. Everyone said he was a generous spirit and had a gentle demeanor. Let's talk about cause and effect. Number one, according to the allegation, he was being arrested for a minor misdemeanor charge And there was no precaution. There was no care of how this was handled, not prior to the accident. We can make an argument about him even being arrested, but after the accident, the way this was handled was quite irresponsible. And based on the allegation, the conditions were that to where the officer should have been driving slower, but instead, with the passenger not properly restrained in the car, was driving too fast for the conditions. That's another claim that is going to be a point of obvious contention. Let's talk about dementia. It's quite clear that he either has a diagnosis or it's a significant mental health decline. An officer should be able to pick up on that pretty quickly, which means you're not transporting him to a jail, whatever the condition may be. You're transporting him to be medically cleared first is the obligation. That wasn't part of the protocol. He was being transported to jail. All right, Reese, this is a horrible story. Obviously, cause and effect applies. We have a situation in this country where folk who have dementia, there's not a lot of help for them, if help at all. And then you have the macrocosm of the system providing remedies such as let's just take them to jail.
Right. Well, and let's also point out that the misdemeanor was so low level that it hasn't even risen to the level of disclosing what it is. We don't even know what ultimately led to a death sentence from this arrest and reckless driving. At the end of the day, we have a duty of care to our senior citizens, especially as you pointed out. It should be very, very easy to pick up on the fact that this gentleman was suffering from some sort of dementia or some sort of ailment that if we lead with empathy, particularly in low-level crimes, as opposed to lead with trying to be Guns of the Navarone or Grand Theft Auto, reckless and on a high of the fact that you have authority over another person, then they would have actually done that. But there are multiple steps within this story that were egregiously inhumane and absolutely worthy of negligence in a lawsuit from this family. The fact that they continue to exacerbate the recklessness which led to Mr. Bingham being hospitalized by then not allowing his family access to a very elderly gentleman in very critical condition is even more disgusting and unacceptable. There was multiple chains within this incident of people failing to exercise humanity and care and failing to decide that we're not going to keep compounding the wrong that has happened to this man by further traumatizing his family. I can only imagine how horrific it must have been for Mr. Bingham to end up in the hospital alone or deprived from his family in that condition for over a week, suffering from injuries that he should have never been subjected to.
That's right. That's right. Well said. We're going to stay on top of this story. We will bring an update as the litigation continues. Okay. Let's talk about the election, uniform voters and social media. Did it cost VP Harris the election? Here it is.
Because there's this story in American politics. Like if you want to understand 20th century American politics, then the big story is that there was this giant Southern realignment in 1964.
Driven by the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, driven by the Civil Rights Act. And that carried forward. It took a really long time, for that to really work its way through down ballot. And so I think it was really tempting for American political scientists and kind of a lot of the, more detail-oriented American political pundits to just kind of see everything.
People who wrote books like Why We're Polarized, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Just to see everything through this transformation. Thomas Piketty actually, recently wrote a great book about, this thing I'm about to talk about. But I think the most important trend politically of the last 30 to 40 years, both here and in every other country in the world, at least Western country that has elections, has been this story of education polarization. That basically everywhere we've seen highly educated people move to the left and, working class people move to the right.
Let's talk about it. Put it up full mass. Okay, give you some background. Media outlet, Vox. So Vox, I spoke with David Shore, the head of the Democratic firm Blue Rose Research, about Democrats losing in the 2024 presidential race. Election analysis draw on a variety of different data. including large sampling of polling data, precinct level returns, and voter file data that shows definitively who did and did not vote. Those last figures became available only recently. Blue Rose Research recently synthesized the data into a unified account of former VP Harris's defeat. Few pollsters boast a larger data set than Blue Rose. The company conducted 26 million voter interviews in 2024. So Sure said, quote, the most engaged people swung toward Democrats between 2020 and 2024, despite the fact that Democrats did worse overall. Meanwhile, people who are the least politically engaged swung enormously against Democrats. They're a group that Biden either narrowly won or narrowly lost 4 years ago. But this time, they voted for Trump by double digits. And I think this is just analytically important. People have a lot of complaints about how the mainstream media covered things. But I think it's important to note that the people who watch the news and people who watch the news the most actually become more democratic. And the problem was basically this large group of people who really don't follow the news at all becoming more conservative. So before I continue, understand the context. The context is information versus no information, or some information versus low information, whatever it may be. Individuals who are engaged in news content, political content, seem to go one way, and those who were not engaged in consuming this same content went another way. So politically disengaged, all right? Politically disengaged voters went from being a roughly neutral group in 2020 to favoring the Republicans by 15 points in 2024. But during the Obama era, this was a solidly Democratic group, favoring us by between 10 and 15 points. So there's also this long-term trend that goes beyond inflation or social media. Our coalition has been transitioning from working class people to college educated people. To move beyond the why, this shift is in the partisanship of politically disengaged voters has a really important implication. For most of the last 15 years, we've really lived in this world where the mantra was, quote, if everybody votes, we win. But we're now at a point where the more people vote, the better the Republicans do, according to the research firm. So according to the firm also, the reality is and this shocked me, by the way, if all registered voters had turned out, then Donald Trump would have won the popular vote by 5 points instead of 1.7 points. That's the data. So I think that quote, we need to turn up the temperature and mobilize everyone's strategy would have made things worse. Now, there's more data here. There's more data. I'm going to go over it. We've talked about this before. We've talked about this with individuals who said, Black folk just need to go out and vote. You just need to vote. It doesn't matter what the issue is. You just need to vote. The more, the better. But the policy context has to be mentioned as well. Obviously, there has to be motivation, but the motivation has to come in the context of policy agendas. And it seems as if the individuals who have been adverse to consuming the information, they have now started to self-consume information, right? Via social media, et cetera. So not a bad thing, but you got to have policy on those social media apps as well. So whereas politically disengaged voters, where they get the information, put it up. According to Blue Rose, voters who got their news from TikTok, I can't believe I'm saying this, the voters who got their news from TikTok were much more likely to swing to the GOP. Go figure. Even after controlling for demographics. The same was found to a lesser extent with Twitter and Facebook. As we have covered before, most of the heads of these social media platforms did what? Donated to Donald Trump and attended Trump's inauguration. Hell, one man purchased the whole damn social media app, President Elon Musk, in order to leverage that platform for this election. And they're complaining about George Clooney giving money to Democrats. Okay. All right. So the platform saw an influx of pro-Trump ads, obviously increased exposure to right-wing influences, removal of fact-checking, respectively. So let's talk about racial factors. Okay. Quote, if we look at 2016 to 2024, trends by race and ideology, let's just break it down, race ideology. You see a clear story where white voters really did not shift at all. Kamala Harris did exactly as well as Hillary Clinton did among white conservatives, white liberals, and white moderates. But if you look among Hispanic and Asian voters, you see these enormous double-digit declines. To highlight one example, in 2016, Democrats got 81% of Hispanic moderates. Fast forward to 2024, Democrats only got 57% of that same group, which is really very similar to the 51% that Harris got among white moderates. Young people are more non-white than the overall electorate. They are more politically disengaged than the overall electorate. But the single biggest predictor of swing from 2020 to 2024 is now age. Voters under 30 supported Biden by large margins. But Donald Trump probably narrowly won 18 to 29-year-olds. This isn't what the exit polls say. But if you look at our survey, talking about Blue Rose, the voter file, precinct level data, that's the picture that you get. Quote, and if you look at people under 25 years of age, every single group, white, non-white, male or female, is considerably more conservative than their millennial counterparts. And it even seems that Donald Trump narrowly won non-white 18-year-old men, which is not something that has ever happened in Democratic politics before. I know you're thinking, WTF, did I misread that? I did not misread it. That's what the data has presented. There's more. Why are younger people more conservative? The hell is going on? Yair Gitza has an incredible paper that shows that people have formative political years. And you can predict a lot of how conservative someone will be from how popular the incumbent president was when they were teenagers or when they were in their 20s. If you look at the millennials were more left-wing in a bunch of countries, including Canada, okay, the UK and Europe. So according to Blue Research, it says, I think that there's a story you can tell. Baby boomers were an incredibly left-wing generation in most places in the world. Millennials were their kids. Quote, but Gen X was really quite a bit more conservative than the boomers in most countries. And there's a lot of theories you can make about that. Response to the oil shocks, stagflation, neoliberalism, etc. But whatever the reason, Gen X came out more conservative. So I think that part of the story is simply that the current crop of young people had Gen X parents. And in our surveys, if we ask people, quote, how democratic were your parents growing up? Some are like 7% more likely to say they had Republican parents than millennials are. So according to Shore, if you look at the voters under the age of 25, the gender gap has doubled in size. And if you look at 18-year-olds specifically, 18-year-old men were 23 percentage points more likely to vote for Donald Trump than 18-year-old women. And gender polarization seems to be increasing in other countries as well. His suggestions, he suggested a solution, quote, but I think we have to approach this from the position that we are in a deep trust hole. The people that we're trying to persuade have very different values than we do and have a very different perception of reality. And a lot of these people are very poorly informed and literally do not consume the sources of information that we broadcast to. And so there has to be some combination of messaging and outreach and changes in how we approach these platforms. And also probably some substantive changes that address what voters see as an error. All right, I know that was a lot of information, a lot of data. It's quite mind-boggling. It allows you to know the level of strategy on the right, purchasing social media platforms, leveraging them for the sake of winning an election. They already had the strategy years before the presidential election was even done. As I said before, Democrats continue to play checkers and Republicans are playing chess. And in checkers, you use power to gain position. But in chess, you use position to gain power. And that's exactly what Elon Musk and all of his cronies have decided to do. And look at where we are. Reese, a lot of information, a lot of data, but damn, this is not good.
It's not good. And here's the thing that I always try to point out. People are disengaged and disillusioned by design. People didn't just magically all wake up and decide that we tuning out the news, we don't want to have our parts in it. People have been attacked with disinformation and misinformation. And the thing about it is the people who are funding these attacks are funding the attacks towards communities like Black people, like people of color, like younger people, to make sure that they stay home. So they don't have to go through the trouble of rigging elections, even though some might debate that that's still happening. They don't have to go through the trouble of making people count beans in order to cast a vote if they can convince you that your vote doesn't even matter. And so part of the context that was missing from all that analysis is the fact that to your point, the Republicans have been playing chess and making sure that they have run a years-long dissuasion campaign on Democratic voters. So I think there is a messaging gap. Obviously, there are debates to be had about policy and what's going to motivate people, but Democrats and people who want to get us out of the MAGA Musk Doge policy hole that we're in and we're going to be in probably for generations to come, they have to recognize that the entire ecosystem around how people get their information has to change. And the other thing I want to really key in on is that very different perception of reality part, because the reality is that we all see very different things depending on whose device that we're picking up. My feed looks completely opposite than another person's feed. And this is something that Republicans, through ownership of these platforms, have been able to exploit. And so the reason why people who are more politically engaged are more Democratic supporting is because they have more context. They're taking in more information and they're able to connect the dots. Even people who are politically disengaged, they still get political information, but it is infiltrated without the political context. It's posted on, let's say, the Shade Room as Joe Biden is putting crack pipes, is spending $500 million on crack pipes. Or you see a World Series ad that says that Kamala Harris is paying for transgender prison surgeries. So there is not an absence of political information, disinformation, and misinformation. It's just how it's used and weaponized and discarded that is leading to very poor decisions that this country has made and how people have decided to engage or disengage.
That's right. That's right. Well said. It's social engineering, as we know, in the context of politics. I tell my college students all the time, you have 3 E's that make you who you are: experiences, exposures, and environments. And that's exactly what they're manipulating in order to get the outcome that they have obviously been able to get. Okay, well, stay up to date on these numbers, but they're damning. All right, hell of a thing. Substitute teacher. A substitute teacher challenged the student to a fist fight. All right, put it up for a mass. I don't know when they are going to learn. For the vast majority of teachers, they are remarkable human beings, very thankful for their service. I'm taking you to the state of Florida. A Florida substitute teacher has been charged with battery after being caught on the video pushing a 14-year-old boy, a child, and instigating a fight in the classroom. Yes, the teacher was instigating the fight. Benjamin Barnes, 26 years of age, was charged with battery for the altercation with a middle school student that was caught on video. The incident took place on March 25th at Webb Middle School in Tampa, all right? So the sheriff's office released cell phone video that appeared to be taken by a student and showed Barnes in the classroom confronting a child head on and goading him to fight in full view of other students. Quote, "You want to fight? I'm right here. I'll fight you all day." End quote. Put up the picture. Barnes continued, "Let's go. Let's go. You still talking?" The footage also shows Barnes stalking the child as he moves around the classroom. Now, you are a professional for a reason. You are a professional because you may be put in a position when someone else is not. And so your professionalism, especially when dealing with minors, has to remain continual. The children. At one point, Barnes snatches the teen's phone out of his hand. And when the child reaches for it, Barnes then assaults the child, pushes his arm away. Quote, "You need to give my phone back, bro," the student says. And Barnes, the teacher, says, "Take it from me." Deputies say the teen left the classroom and reported the altercation to a school resource officer. Barnes was arrested the same day. Barnes also used racially charged language while he attempted to provoke the student into fighting. According to the sheriff's office, authorities have not released what led up to the confrontation. The statement from the Hillsborough County Sheriff, Chad Cronister, quote, "What happened today is a betrayal of everything as an educator is supposed to represent. Our teachers are supposed to create a safe space for learning and respect, not fear and intimidation. This behavior is completely unacceptable, and this teacher will face the consequences of their action." Keep that sheriff up. Sheriff, I'm going to say good for you. All right. And I hope this is a reflection point for the stories that we've covered this week and other weeks on Indisputable, where the same thing happened, but it was a white male who did it. And that white male, as an educator, not a substitute, was able to go home and did not get arrested and barely got suspended. So I'm holding you as a reflection point for those individuals, because I hope that you are stand up enough to where you would have done this regardless of the race component. All right. Just earlier this week, we reported on a similar story, but a couple of nuances. It was a school coach. This high school coach, physical. All right, welcome back. My apologies for the tech issue. As I was saying, we covered earlier this week on Indisputable a similar situation, but this time it was a high school coach, white male, decided to physically assault one of his black female players on the basketball team in front of everyone after they lost a championship game. He literally pulled her hair in front of the whole damn school. What happened to him? He was not arrested. He was not charged. He was let go. The next day, they fired him. But there was no talk of arrest. We're staying on top of that story to make sure there's an arrest effected. That's not the only one. There's many stories we've covered where we have had to stay on top of it until there was an arrest. In this story, however, and it was the right damn call. Believe me, that's the right call. You are a teacher. You start to physically assault a minor, you should be arrested. As a matter of fact, I believe you should be held to a higher standard of accountability if you're in that position. But it happened the right way. It just happens to be a black face on that mugshot who was a substitute teacher. I would like to see it equally applied. All right, just some thoughts here.
No, I agree with you. There certainly is a double standard in terms of a slap on the wrist versus, as you said, a justifiable arrest in the situation. It's unhinged behavior for any teacher to put their hands on a person, or student in particular, outside of self-defense. And even when it comes to self-defense, that's a slippery slope. And so accountability is absolutely justified, but we need to make sure that we're being equally accountable in terms of protecting our students, and we're being equally accountable regardless of the race of the perpetrator in the situation.
That's right. Well said. We got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay. Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Yep, Not a Dragon says, it's weekend time till Monday. Adios. Dominic R. Good morning or afternoon, Dr. Richie. Good evening from Atlanta. And Cena Huggleboom. Reese is great. And she curses like a sailor. Great to have her on the program. That's right.
Indeed.
Love those Sirius XL rules, right? Godless liberal. I'm not sure they can make that generalization about the generations and their parents. I'm a millennial. My parents were Gen X and my kids are Zoomers. And I don't think that's all that unusual. You may be right. And David Morris, great point. Put cuffs on someone, but not a seatbelt. Wow. Yeah. And Kimberly Bailey, they need prison and a major lawsuit. Talking about the dementia. 76-year-old dementia patient. Tyler Hackner. Harris did well for an exceptionally bad environment she was in, but it still wasn't enough. She needed to give something for the people that didn't care, and she didn't. Also, what did I serve for says, find what you are fortunate for Friday. There you go. All right, well, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
What y'all taking me out for?
Out the door.
What you taking me out for?
Because you're a trespasser.
How I'm trespassing when I got a room upstairs?
You don't have a room. Out the door.
What's going on?
Ma, they keep talking about I don't got a room.
What's going on? Well, he's with me. This is my son. He was just in there with me by the pool in the exercise room. He's 18.
Okay. Right. What is y'all saying, folks?
What happened?
It's her. Then she took a picture of my ID. I grabbed my phone. She talking about I gotta leave.
Hold on.
I grabbed my phone. She talking about I gotta leave.
Okay. When I checked in, I had issues to begin with, and I already told you that. Now you harassing my son.
And then I just called her racist. She just said all type of.
Okay, calm down.
She just said all type. Man, stop.
Okay, since I came in here, I have not had good service. I came in here. It's bugs all in there. Behind the curtains, it's bugs.
Dirty ass hotel.
It's the most. I had to come down here and get linen last night from you. Now you harass my son and taking pictures.
Put up the picture for a mask. We don't have all of the details about this hotel manager engaged in Karenicity. So I'm asking for those who are the internet detectives, please help me find out more information. I want to know the name of the hotel. Also, to the young man, I apologize you had to experience that. It will only make you a stronger human being. Understand that it's not you, it is them. It is their ignorance on display, and you handled yourself very well. To the mom, I know the mama bear was coming out of you. You handled it very well also. Very thankful for the recording so that we can know that this happened. I need to know where it happened so I can hold the owners accountable for that kind of behavior from an employee. Reese, we already know why she said you're trespassing. We don't have to have any other context. We know he probably didn't at first. He knows now. What say you?
Well, first of all, let's point out that he was still in basically a public part of the hotel. It wasn't like she was confronting this young man in front of somebody's hotel room who had said that somebody was trying to break into their hotel room. This is about making Black people feel uncomfortable and have to answer to people for them being able to move. They want to police our steps. They want to make a situation hostile for us. And then they want to get some sort of rocks off of trying to exert their authority, which they have done. And so what I really hope the next step was in this situation was her getting her money back and checking out of that hotel and going to a place where she wouldn't be harassed. Because like she said, from the beginning, she had issues with the people at the check-in desk. And I'm not trying to be a victim blamer and say Black people, if somebody gives you smoke, then you just, cut and run, because obviously you have to pay for a hotel room and you might lose your money. But I would not feel comfortable in an environment in which I have to worry about my child walking around being harassed.
That's right. That's right. And that's the reason we want to highlight it, so that no one else feels as if, they have to pay money to be treated bad. Okay. Hell of a thing. Interesting. Trump protest planned for April 5th. Some Black folk are saying, we're going to sit this one out. Here it is.
1 million people are going to march in the United States on April 5th. 1 million people.
Sit your Black ass down.
Now, Black people, on April 5th, I have about 10 things that I need y'all to be doing. Let's start with it. Number 1, I need y'all to go to the beach and mop up the water. Yes, I do.
Sit your Black ass down.
Number 2, I need y'all to open up y'all coffee seeds and count how many y'all have, okay? And let me know the number.
Sit your Black ass down.
Number 3, I need y'all to go to Costco's. Go into the candy aisle. Get jelly beans and tell me how many it is. I need that, yeah.
Sit your Black ass down.
Because we not marching at all.
All right, not the sentiment of everyone, but the sentiment of quite a few, enough to highlight for sure. So according to The Root, okay, in the 2024 election, 57% of white people voted to elect current President Donald Trump a second time. Now, it seems they are having buyer's remorse and are preparing to get information to let the White House know how they feel about the president they voted for. So Indivisible, Move On, and the Human Rights Campaign, these are all allies, okay, are among those groups working together to organize a national day of action on April 5th to protest what President Donald Trump and co-president Elon Musk are doing in the country, and the Republican members of Congress who are sitting by watching and not doing a damn thing. But as they try to mobilize people to show up in big numbers at the state capitals and congressional offices to make their voices heard, many Black people on TikTok are warning in the most hilarious way to stay home. In a new viral trend, some Black people are hearing the call of their ancestors telling them, quote, sit your Black ass down, as you heard in the mantra. Meanwhile, on top of all of this, you have folks online asking where is former VP Harris, saying that she should speak out against Trump. This is a political dynamic, but I want to make sure that I allow their opinions to be heard. Here it is.
Did you see all them folks up here asking about where Kamala Harris at? Why they all of a sudden looking for Kamala? Where was they at in November?
I've been seeing this thing like, where's Kamala at? Where Kamala at? Why you worried about it? Why you worried about where she at? When she was here, y'all didn't want her here. Like, this is getting on my nerves. I have never seen y'all care so much about what a vice president did. Hey, did any of y'all check on Mitt Romney when he lost? Did any of y'all go check on what's old buddy John McCain when he lost? Did any of you? Did you even care? No, you didn't. At the end of the day, mind your business. It don't matter where she at. Y'all didn't want her here.
So let's say you apply to a job. You interview, you make it to the last round of that job. It's you and one other person. You don't get chosen for that job. Do you then hang out around that job, still see if maybe there's something available, still talk about that job, ask if you can volunteer? Oh no, you're moved on to the next thing. That's what Kamala Harris is doing. She's resting. She didn't get the job. She told y'all all of the things that are currently happening were going to happen. Nobody believed her. And now I see all of these people on my For You page, mainly white men, which is interesting, asking, where is Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris is minding her business, as she should be.
I tuned into Bernie's Fight the Oligarchy tour. Great speech. Awesome. He is not saying anything that Kamala Harris didn't say on the campaign trail. Like, yes, he's saying the word oligarchy out loud, but like, Kamala Harris said fascism. Kamala Harris said wannabe dictator. Kamala Harris mentioned the billionaire class that Donald Trump was wanting to give tax cuts to, and not the working class people that she was trying to focus on. Like, I am glad that people are energized by Bernie, but it really just is like, why the did you need an old ass white man to say that while we were actively under duress? Why couldn't you listen to a black woman trying to tell you that an active threat was right there?
Did you see that the majority of black people voted for this woman, stood together just to say that Democrats are out of touch with the working class? Are black people not the working class?
I made the charge yesterday that Kamala Harris was more progressive, if not equally as progressive as Bernie Sanders when she was a sitting senator. And a lot of Bernie bros and fans got up in their so you just want me to pretend that her voting record in the Senate doesn't exist?
Everything that was used to bash Kamala Harris, we're not using the same criteria for Trump, for Bernie Sanders, for Gavin Newsom, all these people that we're putting her up against. The criteria is just not, it's just never the same.
Yep, I knew this would happen eventually. Didn't think it would be so damn quick. I mean, Trump has ruined America in record time. It feels like he's already been there for 4 years. He just got back at the White House. Okay, the comparisons are relevant. They are. There are nuances of bias that are hyper-aggressive and some are unknown to the person doing it. This is a great point of reflection and an opportunity for correction. Kamala Harris, the former VP, I do hope she is considering in the future continuing to push the envelope for political power to go back to the left. I hope so. But we have to stop looking for a savior. Okay? The salvation of progressive policies will not be codified in one human being. It never is. There is no political leader in the history of America who has set the moral compass for the nation. It has always been those who did not have political office, your Dr. Kings of the world, the Malcolm X's of the world, etc. This goes on and on. So the real power has always been with the people, and those closest to the people are able to transform the narrative of the nation. And so I simply want us to get out of the leader to leader comparison when the real issue is us, because we're the ones that the leaders permeate from. All right? That's why I'm at with the Reese thoughts.
Well, there was a lot of different things that were covered in that. First of all, before we get to April 5th, we need to get to April 1st, which right. is the special elections in Florida, congressional districts 1st and 6th district. I want to see if y'all with this protest energy had that same energy to talk to your brethren and sister and your old ass aunties and grandmas and mamas and peepaws and tell them to protect their Social Security and vote Democrat on those two elections. Also, Elon Musk is trying to buy the Wisconsin special election on April 1st. Louisiana has 4 constitutional amendments on the ballot in March 29th. So everybody wants to talk about protests. Everybody wants to talk about there and performing. They want the Democrats to perform. They want to get out there and perform and wave their posters and wear their pink pussy hats and stuff. Get your ass out and vote. When we have the election results, then that will tell you if it's even worth it. Because if all we're going to do is yell and scream and perform and not get to the heart of things, which is we need electoral power in the local, state, and federal level, then we just out here hollering at each other. We're not moving the needle. So that's that in terms of that. I think if people do want to protest, more power to you, but people should absolutely look into resources like the ACLU and make sure that you are prepared for these protests, because we're in a different era now. The Donald Trump era is no more First Amendment, okay? Right. And we don't know what people have up their sleeves. We saw an executive order today come out with basically Donald Trump trying to take over DC. So be careful and be diligent and be safe. That's the first and foremost part. Now, as far as Vice President Kamala Harris, I don't think it's a Kamala Harris thing. Democratic leaders have a tendency to fall back and show deference to the incumbent and the next incoming administration. We saw that happen with President Obama. We saw that where pretty much, the leaders of the past, they don't tend to get involved in what the Republicans are doing. Republicans do not have that same energy. And so absolutely, Vice President Kamala Harris fought a valiant fight. She told us what happened. She could just tweet every single day, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, and that would probably be enough. But she did her job. So she has no obligation to now come and save the day when y'all couldn't even get out and vote and save her and save the country at the same time. With that being said, if she wants a political future, it would behoove her to just be a little bit more visible. I think we can admit that for political calculus, just self-preservation purposes, it would be nice to not have to defend her not saying nothing, okay? So just give a little inch, just dip your toe in, that's it. Just come out, Hillary Clinton said but her emails every now and again. Just give us a little something. That would not hurt. But then the last thing that I will say is nothing that any particular Democratic political leader will appease people, because what people really want to hear is they want to hear that they can sit at home and not vote. They can sit up there and play their purity politics. They can have their red lines, allow the Republicans to get a trifecta majority in the House, overtake the Senate, win the White House, when Donald Trump has packed the Supreme Court 6-3, and not have to live under a Trump, MAGA, Elon Musk, Doge agenda. They cannot tell you that, because what happens is, though, to the winner goes the spoils. And unfortunately, the spoils is America, and they spoiling shit in record time. So nobody's gonna be able to tell you what you want to hear, because elections have consequences, period. So to your point, Dr. Ritchie, the power now has to come from the people. We do not have the privilege to wait until January 2027 to get a new Congress. And if we can even understand that assignment, we need to be mobilizing and putting pressure right now on the Republicans in all these states and at the federal level to change course. They are not completely united. We can do something. We have to make it uncomfortable, whether that's what we're doing with boycotts, whether that's what we're doing in terms of making calls, 5 calls a day, or whether that's what we're doing, showing up at the ballot box, flipping some seats, making them pull back Elise Stefanik's nomination, and protest. And let's have an all of the above approach instead of just yelling at Democrats, telling them what you want to do.
Yeah, that's right. And all politics is local, as we say. We got to get some wins, got to get some W's under the belt. And it should not be difficult in the midst of everyone around you, if not you yourself, losing your jobs, losing your opportunity to retire, or even Medicare, Medicaid, affordable. All of this is being taken away. When Schumer said he wanted to avoid a government shutdown, damn it, Schumer, it's already shutting down. It's already shutting down. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
Ring the bell on YouTube today. You know what it does? It actually rings the bell at my house. It's super annoying, but if you do it, it just keeps on ringing. Oh, plus you can find out when the show is live and whenever we have new clips. Ring the bell. Oh no, not again.
How would I look walking the dog on the White House lawn? Would that be?
You know how much it costs you to start an account on tyt.com? Nothing. It's free. So you just go and register in about 2.5 seconds. Then you can chat with us during the show. We read those comments the most often. You chat with each other. Tons of people have become friends there. We're super interactive. We do a lot of polls for our paying members. We sometimes do polls that drive the direction of the show. So that's amazing. There's no other show that's this interactive. And our home base for that is tyt.com. Come join us right now.
When you were growing up, what did you want to be?
I think I was starting to think I don't want to do one thing, and I did live up to that.
Well, mission accomplished then, because Dave was a geologist, and now he's helped found the Young Turks. Even within TYT, you've done a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So if you want to do different things, you nailed it. All right, last story to end on is a Dave story. Whenever there was something like obvious, glaring, he would go up and ask them about it. Like it'd be like a giant church, right? And somebody's standing in front of it. The usual Dave go, pull up right in front of him. Be like, hey, do you know where there's a church around here? And they're like, right here. It's right here.
Practical jokes. Spice up life a little.
We've been around for about 20 years and we have about 20 billion views. Am I proud of that? Hell yeah, I am. We put out 20 billion messages in a bottle. Have we helped to move now 2 generations, millennials and Gen Z, to become progressive? Yes, those numbers are real. We moved generations. Were we the only ones? Of course not. But we have been the largest online news show for now decades.
Hi, this is J.R. Jackson, host of The Young Turks. Sign up for an Apple subscription for $4.99 to listen to our show ad-free and get access to bonus content. Sign up when you search for the TYT channel on Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT.
Cool news, shoptyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living there.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Don't forget, Indisputable, the podcast, in case you missed the live show or you miss it on social media, YouTube, etc. You can always catch us every day. Indisputable, the podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Rate us 5 stars if you enjoy the content, all right? Very thankful for the continued success of the podcast platform. All right, we got a lot of comments. I'll read a few. Ms. World says, Democrats need to deliver the next time they get power, period. I won't be voting for establishment Dems ever again. They want power again, then do something for the people that put you there. You know, Democrats, unfortunately, especially those who are part of the old guard, they are still very much so institutionalized to fight in a 1980s, 1990s style. They have to start allowing the fighters who know how to fight outside of the box because they didn't know a box existed. They're not equipped, in my opinion, to continue this. And they still think it's something sacred about that office. Ain't a damn thing sacred about the office you occupy. The only thing sacred are the voters who put you there. Nothing else. And Guam will capsize Dragon. Any Democrat who runs without pandering to big dollar donors could easily win. And better do it. I don't think people tuning out of the news is a result of conspiracy. Stay informed, take some effort. And Mark, NYC, I hope the other white educators are justly charged and this black educator is not unjustly overcharged. I agree. Belinda, I think this is Sandage. Afternoon, my people from Seattle, Washington. Afternoon back to you as well. And, talking about the march. B. Brown says, I need this for my ringtone. And Ken Lock, K-Town, hey y'all, in my car, still listening. In my car, y'all, listen. Okay, I like, hey y'all in my car listening. Good for you. Okay. Government shutdown. Well, here it is again. So now 10,000 jobs will be cut according to RFK Jr. Put him up full mass. He is one of the biggest damn disappointments in this whole scenario. That's my opinion. RFK Jr. says 10,000 jobs will be cut because they have to restructure the U.S. Health Department. This will eliminate about 1 in 4 federal health agency jobs, HHS said. This will also consolidate 28 branches of the department into 15 new divisions, including the new AHA. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the nation's health agencies will cut 10,000 jobs from their 82,000 person workforce, an enormous reduction. The U.S. Health Secretary characterized as streamlining federal bureaucracy amid internal resistance to the administration's agenda. The cuts announced yesterday, along with previous restructuring and voluntary buyouts, mean the Department of Health and Human Services will lose roughly 20,000 workers. Kennedy said the department will also close half of its regional offices and create a new agency called the Administration for a Healthy America, or AHA. Quote, we aren't just reducing bureaucratic sprawl. We are realigning the organization and its core mission and our new priorities in reversing the chronic disease epidemic, Kennedy said on Thursday. Now, remember, the branding of it includes the word America. This is a branding dynamic. They're not fixing anything. There is no overall strategy. There is no great plan. There are no experts. The Secretary of Defense doesn't know he's not supposed to use signal to communicate top secret information. They have no institutional knowledge. There is nothing. Trump isn't even briefed on this stuff. He doesn't know what the hell is going on. Elon Musk is squarely in charge. And they're continuing to cut all of these federal jobs, but they're not cutting your taxes. How is this helping for the cost of living? It's doing nothing. They're literally making you spend more with tariffs and everything else. So you're going to pay more. You're going to now get less because you don't have anybody there to answer the phones. But you've paid into these taxation systems to get these services your whole life. And now they're taking them away and giving you no reduction in the process and rebranding everything, America this, America that. That's fine. But damn it, change the structure to a remedy rather than creating more of a problem. Here's what I believe is happening. All of these individuals are quite incompetent for the roles that they're in. They're incompetent because they're willing to work for Trump. I don't give a damn what qualifications they may have or not. If you're willing to work for Trump, you're incompetent because he's going to make sure that whatever your agenda is not yours. It's not your capabilities, your expertise, or what you actually want to do. It's what he wants to do. So they're shrinking the government. They're eliminating all of these institutions, killing the Department of Education, destroying the Department of this, getting rid of the Department of that, shrinking Social Security. Why? Because they're not equipped to deal with this enterprise at current level. So they're going to shrink it. They're going to do exactly what Trump did to the White House. He could never rise to the occasion of being president, so he had to shrink everything around him. And that's what they're doing. They're going to shrink this to their size. And then, in my opinion, Elon Musk, this whole Dodge dilemma, That's going to become privatized. And once it becomes privatized, Doge will have control over all of these governmental entities now under contract privately. This is the privatization process of America. That's my opinion. Kennedy said the department will close half of its regional offices, create the new agency. This is going to be insane. HHS is among the largest branches of the federal government, overseeing 1.7 trillion. Budget and agencies that are household names. Among the agencies under HHS are the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, National Institutes of Health, NIH. They help us academically as well. They're being cut. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, cut. And the Food and Drug Administration, cut. How will this affect you? The critical work performed by these agencies includes protecting Americans from outbreaks and infectious disease at the CDC, helming the world's largest publicly funded biomedical and behavioral research agency at the NIH, providing health insurance to 137 million Americans through the public programs Medicare and Medicaid at the CMS, and approving and regulating the nation's medical devices, drugs, and foods, FDA. HHS said in a news release that the reductions will not affect drug or medical device approvals. Now, we already know how the administration works. It's not difficult to decode. When they say it's one thing, it's the opposite. So when they tell you this will not affect the medical or device approvals, that means it will affect medical, drug, device approvals, et cetera. So drug companies, medical device makers, and other industries, organizations, they pay something called a user fee. The user fee helps the FDA complete timely reviews of new drugs and devices. However, impacts on the timing of drug and device approvals may be unavoidable, said JP Leader, director of the Center for Public Health Systems at the University of Minnesota. A federal worker who is technically categorized as clerical or administrative could also be integral to delivering these services, he said. Cutting workers like that could indirectly impact drugs, medical devices, and food. Other workers may also have to double their workloads to compensate for cuts, which could slow down overall productivity. Quote, getting everybody into the same system means there will be slowdowns, end quote. Quote, that's just part of these changes. HHS officials did not immediately say how the changes will allow Kennedy to carry out goals of making the nation's food supply healthier. Because he doesn't have a damn plan. That's why. There's absolutely no plan whatsoever. All right, Reese, thoughts here.
Well, first of all, this is, any media that's reporting this as a restructuring, this is a dismantling of our health infrastructure. The idea, like you said, that this is making America healthy again, when they are basically taking a buzzsaw to the healthcare infrastructure, ensuring that we do not make any progress in terms of our research capacities. Some of the things that are on the chopping block are research for pediatric cancer, for Alzheimer's disease. These are not controversial things. I know they want to throw trans out every other word, noun, verb, trans, to try to make people feel like they're cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. But the reality is that this is a full-scale attack on systems that are a matter of life and death, a matter of sickness or in health. And this can only be seen in the context of all of the other decisions that this administration is making as pruning the population. Now, all the people that sat up there and said, you ain't gonna shoot me up with the vaccine because y'all gonna be zombies in 2 years, and it was a big conspiracy about how that was population control. This is a conspiracy in front of our faces that y'all thought the COVID-19 vaccine was, because there is no way this is gonna make our country safer. And they are attacking every aspect. The food supply is gonna be less safe. The prevention is going to be practically non-existent. The attacks on research grants is actually an additional attack on educational institutions that are funded by these research grants. And so they are leaving no stone unturned on the way that they're dismantling it. And what makes it even worse is the centralizing that they're trying to do is to politicize it, and to your point, Dr. Ritchie, make it more profitable, whether that's through privatization of currently public services or in deregulating things in a way that makes us less safe, but it makes it more profitable for these corporations so that the Elon Musk's, Jeff Bezos, and all their other benefactors can see more of that profit and not have to be held accountable to keeping our country safe with the barest of standards. Because I don't think that we have the toughest standards in the world, but they've been enough to make progress in terms of our health, and this is not going to move us forward.
That's right. We'll stay on top of it to make sure you're informed. We got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at a Wolfpack gathering.
We're growing. I see faces that I recognize, but I also see a lot of faces that I don't recognize, and that's fantastic.
We are all taking time out of our lives to be here, and that's amazing. That means we truly believe in this. Make no mistake, everyone in this room is a leader in a Wolfpack.
Alaska, West Virginia, Montana, Georgia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, everyone is here. All these folks paid with their own money and sometimes took vacation days to come here to strategize on how to get our democracy back and get money out of politics.
Or you get more political power just because you have more money. This is why it requires a constitutional amendment.
The process of winning in your state next year doesn't begin when session begins. It begins right now.
To work to a goal, something this big that you're actually making a difference of, there's very few things in the world that really compare to that feeling.
Equal rights to fair representation, rights for human beings, anti-corruption laws, and free and fair elections. That's what we are fighting for.
What were the founding fathers? Revolutionaries. And they built revolution into the document.
So Article 5 is the way we have to go.
This is how you do it.
You're in this as a team. You're in this together. The fight will always continue.
That fight is not between the left and the right. That fight is between basically greed and humanity.
So I'm asking you to put differences aside, whether you're conservative or independent or progressive, to join forces to say no more corruption.
You get beyond the fear, you take that first step, and you'll change the world.
What I want to leave you with, of course, is hope. And I want to assure you that if we keep fighting together, we're going to win together. We're going to get that convention, we're going to get that amendment, and we're going to get our democracy back. Come join us, wolf-pack.com.
Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show. Now,
We'll see.
Poor Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? So now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy. Everyone should be lucky enough to have a John Iadarola in their life.
You confused everyone.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was pretty clear.
Take a break now.
You can turn me into Dr. Manhattan as long as I get what Dr. Manhattan's packing, okay?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
Emilio D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Iadarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby. You know, the two people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm. That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
I hope that, who they choose for the White House isn't just a borderline Klansman. That's all we gotta hope.
That's it, we will settle it.
She's cute. I didn't say that about Lori Ingram.
Scandal at TYT. Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't.
You're a good boss.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip in the Republicans. See, don't miss the live show. That's great. Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Going to read a few comments. Ace's Kind of Dragon says, we need to change the party's name to the Progressive People's Party. It's a good idea. And what else we got? Yeah, you're right, Sam. Sam says, Americans did not vote for this. That's right. And the voodoo you do. Now, how much taxpayer money is going to cost for these buyouts? I had the same question. What is the plan to reemploy all of those Americans fired? No plan? Does Trump look like the man who has a plan? Has he ever had one? Okay. And, Spirit X, Black Boss B of the Bayou, and they're not cutting their salaries either. Yeah. All right, well, we knew this was coming. Trump orders museums to remove items related to race and gender. Put it up for a mass. All right. He's gone full Hitler. Another executive order has been signed by President Donald Trump. ABC News reports Trump signed an executive order behind closed doors on yesterday, directing federal agencies and the Smithsonian to eliminate what the order calls, quote, divisive and anti-American content from museums and national parks. I'm going to give you the background. The order called, quote, restoring truth and sanity to American history. This is not an SNL clip. That is actually the name of the order, restoring truth and sanity to American history. Directed the Vice President and Secretary of the Interior to restore federal parks, monuments, memorials, and statues, quote, that have been improperly removed or changed in the last 5 years to perpetuate a false revision of history or improperly minimize or disparage certain historical figures or events, end quote. So the executive order also directed VP J.D. Vance, good to see J.D. working again, who is a member of the board of regents at the Smithsonian, to work to eliminate what it claims are improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology. This institution has 21 museums connected to it. So the White House said, in full context of the executive order, that over the past decade, rewriting of American history has cast American milestones in a negative light, and therefore directs museums to remove some historical context relating to race and gender. It added that future funds for the organization will be banned for exhibits or programs that, quote, degrade shared American values, divide Americans based on race, or promote programs or ideologies inconsistent with federal law, end quote. So it banned the forthcoming American Women's History Museum from recognizing transgender women in any respect. The order said that the exhibits and programs that it seeks to remove undermine the nation's, quote, unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness by casting its success as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. ABC reports that examples that have been given by the executive order include an exhibit at the Smithsonian American Art Museum called, quote, The Shape of Power, Stories of Race and American Culture. Okay, The Shape of Power, Stories of Race and American Culture. The order claimed that this actually promotes the view that So the order claimed that it promotes the view that race is not a biological reality, but a social construct, and exhibits at the National Museum of African American History and Culture that the order said proclaimed that hard work, individualism, and nuclear family are aspects of white culture. This is just really ironic and lacking people that have common damn sense making these decisions, okay? Understand how race is contextualized. Race has always been contextualized as a social construct until the word white for people was invented some years ago. That's the historical dynamic of the conversation. But even if you disagree with that, that's fine. It's allowable to disagree. It's called open debate, open forum. It's called nuance, diversity, opportunity to engage. They are taking these things away. They are wanting one opportunity and one opportunity only, the opportunity to indoctrinate you, period. All right, Reese, thoughts here?
Well, I mean, if you look at what this administration has done is they have equated diversity and inclusion as being the opposite of meritocracy. So it makes perfect sense that they would attack institutions that talk about not only the accomplishments of Black people like the NMAHC, but also talk about the impediments to progress, to impediments to equality and equity. The reality is that this president is not interested in truth. This is the same person after visiting the Smithsonian, the Black Smithsonian, or as we call it, the Blacksonian sometimes, was talking about Frederick Douglass as though he were still alive. So he doesn't have any idea about American history, let alone Black history. So he's in no position to be an arbiter of truth, definitely not in a position to be an arbiter of sanity either, because what we're seeing from this administration is unhinged.
Yeah, seriously. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. Okay, end on a bright note. Part 3, Black folk talking to their pets continues to trend on TikTok. Here it is.
I want to pray for you, Pancake, because you've been having a hissing spirit towards Uncle Calvin. Yeah, and he always give you extra treats, give you food behind my back. So let's pray for this hissing spirit. Heavenly Father God, I ask that you take that hissing spirit out of Pancake right now, Jesus. Fix it in the name of Jesus.
I'll do the rest because I love you, okay?
Now, before we go in here, if I get any calls this weekend that you didn't somebody's house, I'm beating your ass. You better have a good weekend and you better listen. Let's go.
Now, I done already said I was sorry for taking your bonnet by mistake. Do you want it or not? There's no reason to get an attitude about it. It looks perfectly okay, Nanard. I gave it back to you. You look super cute.
Yeah, it's my son's birthday. He not gonna say nothing because he too fly right now. Well, usually y'all know how he do. It's my baby birthday.
If you can't do this, it's because your cat don't like you. Period. We back with it. Both of us lean back. Fat Joe, lean back. They don't let you use their tail as a microphone. That mean they hate you as well. Be balancing. Look how far I can hold her out. Like I'm bowling. You can also run faster in case of an emergency. I can do it with Big Boy too. It's all about the hold, the tuck. It's an emergency and you gotta evade something. Look, I'm gonna put this vacuum right here. Watch. Tuck them. Whoop, spin. Sometimes you also gotta run up and down stairs. It's 16 pounds. Let's go. No knees.
I can tell you, as a man who years ago used to rescue cats, that's a lot of trust that cat has for that brother. I mean, damn. Reese, when I first saw this, I said, I don't know what the big deal is. Isn't this how everybody talks to their pets? And I found out, no, this is something exclusive to us.
Well, we got to have a little bit of seasoning. We have a little razzle-dazzle. And so, we bring life. They give us life back. But you know what? There is a special Black people cat whisperer because all the cats I've known have been mean. So maybe I'm in the right boat of not being a cat mom. But I love to see it. I just love to see people have fun. And the animals were good sports about it too.
They were 100%. All right, dear sister, thank you for being on the program today. We hope to have you back more often. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your great work.
My YouTube channel is Black Women Views, and you can follow me, Reese Colbert, on all socials. My show is Sirius XM Urban Views, same channel as Dr. Richie, and I'm on Saturdays from 2 to 4 p.m. live. Thank you, Dr. Richie, for having me again.
Thank you, dear sister. We appreciate all you do. All right, remember, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.